It is indeed my pleasure to welcome Suresh Prabhu right here on ET Now. Thank you very much, Mr. Prabhu, for talking to us. It's always good to catch up with someone who's in a hurry, a man in a rush to do things. So congratulations on your government's second anniversary. I must first begin by congratulating you. You are one of the better performers, one of the high performers in the Modi cabinet. You very recently said that Indian Railways is out of the ICU. So because you're the minister here, I'll dawn to be a doctor. On what parameters do you qualify railways being out of the ICU?
You know, when you say ICU, sometimes we use these terminologies to describe what the situation of the institution was.
Right.
If you look at any of the expert reports made in the last 20-25 years, they have been saying that railway is in deep trouble, right from Rakesh Mohan committees onwards.
True. And
even earlier. So we must accept the fact that railway has been passing through very difficult times. And each of these committees, expert organizations, experts, people who know railways have been saying that it needs a course correction.
That's right.
And therefore,
that's what you are attempting to do.
That's right. So what is the course correction we did? Very simply, we identified the problems of the railways. So first, you go to a doctor. I'm not a doctor, but you go to a doctor. Before he prescribes you medication, he will first do a diagnosis. So the diagnosis was very clear that railways needs to change to create capacity addition. Do not keep adding new trains. Do not necessarily keep giving some grandeur things, but just do the basics. So we started doing the basic. We have started doubling, we have started doing tripling, we have started doing modernization of the apparatus, we have tried to do cost control. 12,000 crores of cost we have cut this year. So we try to do cost control, we are trying to optimize the revenue. So first time we have created a directorate in the railways to augment non-rail revenues, which should be at least 30% or more of the entire railways revenues, like is in case of Japan or other railways. So we started doing that. We are also trying to optimize the productivity. We are also trying to address customer complaint, and to begin with to accept them as customers.
And otherwise, to be a quick tweeter yourself.
Because the basic thing you want to know, if you are paying for it, is that my grievance will be addressed. So we started creating a mechanism for it. So many things we have done. So I am saying that we are on a course of achieving what everybody wanted railways to do. We have started working on it. It will take 3 more years. So we are no longer in a situation wherein we are aggravating a railways element, but trying to take it out of it. We are on a course correction. We are on a regime, health regime, using the same terminology.
So I want to actually ask you this question. The railways is certainly out of the ICU, and your worst critics are going to grant you that. But when is it that you discharge the patient and the patient can hop across happily, healthy? When do you see that happen? Is 3 years too small a time?
I think,
3 years left?
I think 2020, I said in my budget speech, actually I stick my neck out by saying that, because I want to take responsibility.
True.
Because I feel that first phase of railways, this course correction, first phase of it will be 5 years. Because why 5 years? This is something again not because of a term of the government. Every time you try to lay down a new track or you try to do augment capacity, the life cycle is 3 to 5 years. We have reduced it significantly. In fact, there used to be a time when any new project was announced and the tender was issued, it would take 2 years.
True.
We have brought it down to 6 months by a variety of things. By also delegating powers, by reducing this, making it transparent, many things. So, but still, it takes 6 months. So, if your starting point is 6 months, then we always had a problem, what you call it as a financial closure.
That's right.
If you start a project, you don't know when my next installment is going to come from, or it's not going to come at all. So therefore, the management of the railway project implementation, we're always thinking, we don't know whether the money is going to come, why should I bother about it?
That's right.
Now, we are told the general manager, you are responsible because we are giving you powers. We are giving you a stream of cash flows which is going to come to you. Now don't give us excuses. Now implement.
So you want to move away from excuses and focus on results, which is of course a very good approach. But I must ask you a very quick question, because you mentioned this in passing, investments and fundraising. You've done that. You've tied up, LIC has committed funds. You're trying to look at a fund with World Bank as one of the anchors. What I want to ask you is that, do you believe Indian Railways could have done better in terms of investments? Both the rate of investment and of course the quantum of investment.
See, I will tell you something. This year was the most challenging year because firstly, when I announced in my last budget, 77 projects I think, we didn't have the DPR. How I announced it, I became minister in November. I started looking at the situation. So by the time it was January, we realized that what is really needed to be done for the railways is to doubling, tripling, electrification, stuff like this.
Yes.
So I set up a EDs committee, the internal committee of the railways, all the professionals, all the railwaymen, nobody from outside, said what is that we can do which can rescue railway from this. So they came out with these projects. I said, we are DPR ready? No. But they said they were convinced, all the railway board was convinced that this is what is needed for the railways. I said, okay, I'll put it in the budget. So when we put in the budget, there was no DPR ready.
Okay.
Then we had to do all the approvals, including NITI Aayog approval, CCA approval, expanded board approval, all that was not done. So now, this we did. So therefore, investment, if you look at it,
which is why it couldn't be high. It would have been higher had the DPR been in place.
In this year, you will see a significant step up of investment, because now we are almost 6,50,000, 5,60,000 crores. Projects are ready, sanctioned. So there is no issue there.
Actually, yesterday in my interview at ET Now, I think Finance Minister also said that Railways is on track to not just bust its investment targets, and I'll be happy to provide more money if they need it. So I think
definitely get more. I mean, thankful to Finance Minister for doing this. But I am very sure this year we can definitely enhance. Last year was capacity building year. Nobody believed. See, even if you tell a general manager that now you have powers, he could never believe it because he never used it.
Yeah, it
Everything
was never done
was
before.
sent to the railway board. So now he knows that power is there. It's for real. He can exercise it. So now in this year you will see a significant step up into capex. Again, I must tell you something. Don't go by the capex figure of the railways just by like that.
Right.
1 lakh crore was the capex. Addition to that, 85,000 crores of dedicated freight corridor.
That's right.
Which was never approved in the cabinet before. We got all the estimates made, most of the tenders are issued. Thirdly, 1 lakh crore almost of high-speed railway. 40,000 crores of contracts which are issued for diesel and electric locomotive to GE and Alstom. This year you will see state governments which have become our partners, they will be spending additionally amount. So the total capex of the railway,
it's going to look a lot better and a lot bigger.
It is not just what is coming from a budget alone.
Right,
but it's much, much more coming from different streams.
You know, I appreciate the point, and that's a lot of green in your report card. The one red in your report card, if I may red flag it right now, is that the operating ratio worries a lot of people. It has deteriorated to 90. This fiscal it could deteriorate to 92. Is that something that bothers you, or do you believe this is part and parcel of expanding, modernizing, capacity building?
No, this is absolutely right. But let us put everything in perspective.
Yes.
See, the pay commission has added the highest burden of pay commission.
Is on the
if anybody has to take is in the railways, because we are the largest employer.
Yes.
Number two, we passed a law in the parliament increasing the bonus to the PSUs. The only organization which has taken the highest brunt of it is railways. So I have provided for it. So just imagine every time in the past, after that so-called famous financial engineering in the railways, post-pay commission, the operating ratio dropped by 7, 8, 10, 12 points. This time it has dropped by only 2 points. That's one part. That's the expenditure part.
True.
The income part this year, the core sector growth, which our finance minister also keeps saying, has not been as good as what we wanted it to be. So that impacts the railways, because we handle those 7, 8, 9 commodities mostly, which is coming from the core sector. So this year, I am very sure, we are geared up. But what we did, we geared up for 1.2 billion tons of cargo to be handled. 1.2 billion.
That's right.
So this is a significant change. See, earlier, the problem was the supply side constraint. That coal wanted to handle coal, or you wanted to handle more of minerals. There was no wagons available. Now we did first time, because we were ready last year, 1.2 billion tons. Today we are ready for 1.2 billion tons. So if the core sector growth happens in a big way, as we are expecting now, we are ready for it, because then it will not happen that
you built capacity and now you're waiting for orders to flow in. Fair point indeed, sir. But there is something that I must also ask you, because when you became railway minister, expectation was rife that here is someone who's a technocrat, who's going to take possibly the non-political decisions, and which is why there was a lot of hope that there will be rationalization of tariffs. Something that hasn't happened, but you have said that there is a need to stop the cross-subsidy from freight to passengers. You obviously did not hike tariffs, many people believe, owing to state assembly elections, but those will go on. Why is it that you're shying away from that? Because that is your big source of revenue. I know you're tapping all kinds of revenues. You perhaps don't want to...
I'll tell you. See, firstly...
Because you're a technocrat. People...
But let me tell you, I know I'm a member of parliament first.
That's right.
I'm part of the government first. I report to parliament. Last. Parliament has to approve my budget. Parliament has to approve everything. So I must put that. But at the same time, let me tell you, we cut down the cost by 12,000 crores this year.
That's right.
So you want to just increase the revenues, it's not right, because you must also reduce the cost.
True.
It is unprecedented that 12,000 crores of cost has been reduced, and we've tried to reduce more, including energy, which we never thought is possible, because we use the same open access, which when I was the Minister of Power, we had done that Electricity Act. Now, this year, this cost subsidy issue, first time, I don't know after how many years, or maybe for the first time, I don't know that, is the freight is reduced. It is not increased. The freight is reduced.
That's right.
So just imagine the cost subsidization has already started happening. Additionally, we are creating a regulatory mechanism at a very advanced stage. We should be doing it in the next few months, which will then decide the freight and fare, also decide the efficiency of operation of the railways, and that will be an institutionalized mechanism. So that also we are doing.
And many people believe that authority is a game-changing idea of sorts.
It will automatically happen, because then this depoliticization happens.
Exactly.
See, then today, if I increase it...
And that decision should be left to market forces.
Absolutely. And then anybody can go and argue before them. Suppose consumers feel, customers feel, passengers feel that they have been denied their due. They can go to the regulator and do it. So it will be a very good...
You know why I asked you that question is, as a member of parliament, as a part of the government, I think it's only fair that you are sensitive to popular sentiment, and popular sentiment is always against tariff hikes. What you perhaps could have done is increase fares in suburban trains. I mean, look at the experiment with Delhi Metro. People are willing to pay a lot more if you offer them good services. Why aren't you looking at plucking that low fruit?
See, we are doing definitely that. In case of Bangalore, for example, they want a new Bangalore.
That's right,
we already agreed with the state government that we will create a new corporation, and then they will decide what should be the fare, etc. They will be deciding. In case of Mumbai, we are starting a new elevated highway. In the elevated highway also, we have decided that what we will do is that new fare will be decided differently, because passengers are going to get new avenues. So we should always look at it like this. The existing passengers, they are used to certain comfort level. They must obviously contribute a little more, but if you offer a new facility, people are willing to pay more for it directly.
Yes.
I'll give you an example of Gatiman Express. It is 50% more tariff. It goes full all the time.
Right.
What does it mean? It only means that when you launch a new product, so we are launching new product, 4 new products we are launching this year. Completely new, brand new.
That's right.
One is Tejas, one is Humsafar, third is Uday. So these 3 products will be completely on cost plus basis. We'll actually recover more money out of it.
Okay.
So more trains we fly, more revenues will come to railway. And then other one, which is called Antyodaya Express, which will be fully unreserved for the common people.
That's
so
right.
we must keep in mind in India that whatever you do, these social forces are to be taken on board.
And railway is a link line. You cannot deny that. I have a very quick question to ask of you though, and you know, because somebody who understands how market forces work, crude is very cheap right now, airline fares are very cheap, people are migrating to these low-cost carriers. You have obviously lost passengers to that. How do you intend winning them back?
See, this is a very important question. See, firstly, we invested significantly higher amount of money into roads than in the railways. So we lost a lot of traffic to road.
Sure.
If you want to get it back, I must also invest, if not the same amount, at least substantially higher amount in the railways than in the past. That's what we are doing. So that hopefully we'll be able to get some traffic back from road. Even the freight, now we have started getting some more, because
freight is the question I have. I'm going to go to that.
We are trying to reduce the freight rate, so we are trying to get it back. On airlines, why people go to airline? It's because of speed. See, in case of road, it's access.
That's right. Yes.
But in case of air, it is speed. So that's why if you don't increase the speed of the Indian railways, and therefore you must try to get in high-speed railways into India, then only we'll be able to compete with low-budget airlines. So if we do not have a multiple strategies to target different segments of the travelers, nobody's claim that bullet train or high-speed railway is meant for somebody. This is for a general use of the economy as a whole, which will increase the speed of operation in the country, which will bring new technology. That technology is not going to be confined only to one project.
And the more the choices before people, the better it is.
And this will transcend into all other sectors.
You were talking about freight, and I think a very valid argument there is that freight is still dependent and is almost at the mercy of the core sector, which itself is very volatile. I mean, you know, you see core sector do some months very well, and then of course it hasn't. How are you going to beat down those blues? What's your plan to navigate through that kind of volatility?
See, firstly, we cannot be just be centered around those 7-8 commodities that we handle.
Right, right.
We should try to make sure that our basket is significantly diversified. So therefore, that process we already started.
Okay.
One. Number two, we should be engaged with people. See, if you think, if you want, you come to me. I am going to sit in my cabin. That attitude is not going to work. So we started changing last year. Now this year we already had meetings with almost all the stakeholders. You ask them, they will tell you. This has been a significant improvement. Just now also some industry people had come and met me. They told me that is a very, very departure from the past. We are appointing customer manager, account manager. This is
like a customer relationship manager that you have in
like
banks.
Same thing.
Yes,
you tell me your problem, I'll deal with it.
Sure.
So we are doing that. In addition to that, we are trying to increase our ability, like every freight, different parcel business. We never done that parcel business in a significant way.
Sure.
We are trying to do that. We are getting into smaller commodities. So we are trying to do that. But it's a very valid point. We need to diversify. We cannot just be significantly relying only on these few commodities.
Will you be looking at long-term freight contracts with your industrial customers, because that will ensure renewed security of freight that's coming from there, and this is a big demand from the industry. Why not have long-term contracts?
We are doing that actually.
You are?
You're absolutely right. This is absolutely need of that, because then it avoids the uncertainty. People know exactly what I'm going to get into for the next 3 years, 4 years. We also, they are assured of a significant level of cargo. We want to do it with coal also, because they have the 50% of the freight that we handle comes from the coal. So that's how the railway network has been designed. We need to slowly change that also. But while it is there, we need to enter into a long-term agreement with them. But it's a very valid point. We are doing that.
I have a quick question to ask of you before I move forward on other subjects besides freight. Is that one of the flags that have been raised, so to say, is that there is not the desired progress in dedicated freight corridors, or for that matter, running freight trains to specified timetables. If you want to increase the freight traffic, if you want to increase the tariff revenue coming from it, you obviously will have to focus on things like this, because nobody wants delayed delivery.
It's true that freight corridors should have been put on a much higher pedestal. But now I'll just give little statistics. Last 6 months we issued contracts about almost, I think, 15,000-18,000 crores, which are significantly more than what we issued in the previous 6 years.
Yes.
And now by
when do you expect fruition of these?
By June, July, I think July maybe, we should be able to issue all contracts. Maybe August. But we'll issue all the contracts. So that's first part, that is over. Land acquisition is almost 90% over. Project implementation, I think now we have started monitoring on a weekly basis at the railway board. So there is a person made responsible for monitoring on railway board. It is financed by the World Bank. So actually we are also collecting independent reports from the World Bank. Then we also said that collect report from the contractors, because that's very important. Because sometimes what happens is they are the ones who are implementing it. Their difficulties have to be taken on board. So we are trying to started doing all that. So I think it should be hopefully by 2019 we should try to do.
So when you put all of this in focus, the railway share of freight that was at about 56% in the 7th plan, it's down to 30% now. Where do you see this figure go?
No, it will improve significantly. And I think with this freight corridor it will improve, but also we announced 2-3 more freight corridors. So that again will significantly improve.
If I may just suggest something that has come from a lot of experts that we spoke to for this interview. They say that when there was a petrol price hike, people would go up in arms. Why are you hiking petrol prices? When the diesel price hiked, the same thing happened. But when you do it in small doses every month, it becomes palatable. It becomes, it's politically palatable. It's also easy for people to absorb. Why aren't you looking at something like that for both tariffs?
I will not.
Is that something on your radar?
Because something is already. But one thing is that point is well taken. That rather than any giving shocks to people, if you give them little bit small doses, people appreciate it. And I think people will definitely understand it, because we have started working on it. We are improving the facilities, we are improving the capacity. We want to increase the safety. So people should contribute some part of that. If definitely we are not expecting all, but small part of that they should be able to contribute. So we'll definitely going to do that.
Fair point indeed. Now, one of the most highlighted projects of the Modi government, and there's a lot of euphoria, excitement around it, especially after you've taken over, is the bullet train. I'm going to be a little bit of a skeptic here, because some people believe, is it a project that you would perhaps repent at thinking it's an expensive mistake you've made? Is it merely atmospherics? Because not much has really moved there. If you can share where that project is, what is happening on that front?
See, firstly, this is almost about a 1 lakh crore project. This will be more or less fully financed by the Japanese.
That's right.
At 50 years tenure, 15 years moratorium, 0.1% interest. There is going to be at least 85% of that will be manufactured in India.
And that's what I wanted to come to.
So
it's going to be manufactured in
India. So we'll get a technology, we'll get the ability to manufacture stuff like this, we'll understand it. And as always happened, this will also integrate India into a different kind of speed game that is necessary. Because China, if you look at it, the speed of transportation has contributed significantly to China's GDP.
That's right.
So integration that must take place within the regions, within different cities, different towns, cannot happen unless you have the speed. The first point that you raised, very valid one, that how do you compete with the budget airlines?
That's right.
How do you compete with budget airlines if the speed is not higher?
True.
So therefore, that again has to be taken on board. It's true that if we had done it on a commercial basis, it would not be viable. That's why Japanese are giving us at a very concessional rate.
True.
So that enhances the viability of the project. In any case, the technology that comes in will also be used in many other sectors, including the common man that travels by that, they will also benefit from it. Again.
So there will be a lot of technology transfer, is that fair to presume?
Yes.
Okay.
Also, you look at it like this, because Japanese have agreed to do this, they also agreed to work all their best of R&D. Japanese are known for the best of R&D in the world on railways. They have decided to collaborate with us on that. They also decided to collaborate with us on improving India's safety record. Japan has almost zero accident rate. So that again will help us. Japanese also decided to work with us on enhancing our existing network. So just imagine, it's not one project partnership. It's a beginning with that project, but used in many other sectors.
Multi-layered partnerships. The reason why, sir, I asked you that question is that if every 500 kilometers is going to cost 1 lakh crore rupees, what sort of costs are we looking at for the consumer? Then what is in it for the consumer?
See, they have already done that calculation because JICA did these viability studies, and according to the JICA, the price that a customer will be paying will be slightly lower than the rate of budget airlines. So that's why we'll be able to compete with them. So this is a JICA study. They have done the viability on their own. They have found it out.
Before I move any forward, I must ask you a question that railways is very important, and it's very important the infrastructure pie, because the kind of orders that railways can give can really set the investment ball rolling, so to say. We still haven't seen PPP being very successful, at least not in the past. You are obviously someone who's bullish on it. You want private sector to come in, participate in modernization of railway stations and things like that. Where are things on that? Are they willing to loosen their purse strings just yet? Are they willing to invest right now? Because in other sectors, private sector is very, very wary right now.
No, I know. See, basically this is a fact that general private sector investment has gone down in the last several years because of what happened in the previous 10 years.
True.
They are overexposed, their balance sheets are in trouble. That's a fact. But luckily, I'll give you another example. 40,000 crores of contracts were issued for GE and Alstom. That's private sector.
True.
Also partly FDI.
Yes.
Then station development. We already issued for development of first railway station on the PPP model in Habibganj in Bhopal.
True.
Then Surat, 17 companies have come and participated. Then this 400 stations, we already delegated it to the general managers. So they had pre-bid conferences in more or less all the major cities of India. The private sector response is pretty good. So I think it's not going to be this easy cakewalk. It never happens like that. They will also have their concern. They will also have their priorities. So we must actually build up a sort of a relationship.
What has been your biggest challenge to convince the private sector to invest?
See, firstly, private sector itself, ability to invest has gone down significantly because of the overexposure in the past.
That's right.
To enhance their comfort level, we are creating this regulator. One of the function of the regulator will be to deal independently on the PPP projects. So this will also create some sort of a safety net for them.
When do we see this independent regulator coming? You referred to the independent regulator about 3 times in this interview. By when do we see that being a reality? Because many people believe an independent regulatory authority is going to take the politics out of railways. Because so far railways...
No, we'll be able to do this definitely this year. Definitely we'll do it this year.
Okay, I must close this by asking you a few questions that are signature questions for someone like you. You know, the way you've advanced the grievance and addressal system is now a case study at IIM Ahmedabad. How did the quick tweeter in you come up to respond to something like this? This is almost engaging the customer with what the Indian Railways has to offer.
You know, if you really look at it, the railways have not realized, we had not realized in the past the value of a customer. See, a customer who comes in pays us, so we have to be extremely grateful to him.
Right.
And therefore, we must be able to address his complaint. When I started doing it myself. I used to do it at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. And then my wife was...
Then a divorce paper arrived.
Yeah, what I'm doing. So later on I realized that I cannot do it myself, so we institutionalize it. We ask all the general managers to use Handle, all the DRMs to use Handle, so they use it. The advantage of it is, firstly, we make the customer better travel, but also we understand why the complaint is coming. If the complaint is coming only from one geography, or is it coming from one function like catering, or whether it's coming from reservation, then it means there is some systemic flaws. So we are able to identify and improve the system based on customer feedback. So this is not just a Twitter. I will tell you later that I get here, the email that we receive here,
everything
the phone call that we receive here is all responded, and I monitor it. Not that, people sometimes feel that, response means I must get it. Some people ask me, I want to have a new line. And therefore
is it fair to assume that for the first time Railways is looking at itself as a service industry? You are valuing the customer because you're trying to protect your turf. They could be taken away by all kinds of transport that's available.
It has to be, because we cannot survive unless we actually are a service provider. So we cannot survive unless we start improving our service. I know it's not easy, but at the same time you must make an effort, Mr. Beginning. And that is what's sticking your neck out. So when we started doing this, it is really sticking your neck out. And sometimes it is so happy experience. One woman, pregnant woman, was harassed by some 7-8 ruffians. Her husband made a complaint to the police. They didn't act. That's the local state police.
Right.
So he tweeted to me at middle of the night. So we acted on it. Next station, those 7 people were arrested. Then one woman was harassed. So, this is the type of, the moment of happiness you get.
These are stories that you would
also the comfort level. If the passengers don't feel safe, how can I make it? Of course, it's not easy, but we are still trying. And
talking about life not being easy, and because I'm wrapping this up, 2 years is also a good time to sit back and say how life has been in the last 2 years. So from the first interview you had as Railway Minister to now, you've put on a little bit of weight, so I don't think the walks are happening. But as I wrap this up, what are the biggest hits and misses according to you in the last 2 years? And has it easy being a man in haste to do things in New Delhi that hardly moves?
No, we have no choice not to be in a hurry, because there was flurry of activity has to happen, so it has to be in a hurry. But what I'm saying is, you have a lot to catch up. A lot of things have not happened. Must make it happen. Expectation of people are rising all the time. We are losing traffic. We are losing share of business. So we have to do better. So there is no choice not to be in a hurry. But at the same time, your ideas should be very clear. So when you are running also, you should know where you are running. So that's why we prepared a 5-year budgetary plan. Though first year was first year budget, second year was a continuation of that.
So you're not in this for the sprint but the marathon.
And also, yes, and also the 2030, we are going to create a complete, actually physical plan, how the railway network should look like in 2030. So we are preparing that. So I think all this put together, we have no choice not to run, but to run, we have to actually have energy. So energy has to come from people working together. So we have to build up a team. I'm very happy to say that the railways had to align all their priorities, and each and every employee must feel aligned to those priorities. We are able to do that. So I think hopefully...
And that's a big achievement for the number of people you head in Indian Railways.
Next year will be better. Year after year will be better. 2020, we can sit back and say we have achieved something, but still I will not be happy unless we actually transform the railway, which may take another 5 years.
Mr. Suresh Prabhu, it's a pleasure talking to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you for everything. Thank you.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow, and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.